They couldn't get rid of us. We're back.
All right. Yes, we are. Welcome to another episode of Glasshouse Presents Throwing Stones. Another fantastic episode today. We got some great guests to talk to. Who do we got today, Dave?
Chris SOTOMAYOR. I am so pleased to have him on board. This is yet another case of me trying to expand my horizons and also helping the fans because there are so many fabulous artists, colorists, designers, and so forth in this business. Writers too, of course, that I have either never had a chance to meet or have only crossed in passing. And so a chance to have Chris aboard to talk for a while, I think is fabulous. The man is so talented, and let's bring him in and get started.
All right. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Thank you so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Of course, of course.
And thanks for that intro. You're making me blush a bit there.
Well, it is true. Artist Will Conrad was here for a while, and he said you had colored some work of his
Yeah, he's great.
that he had really, really loved. So, Will's the best of the best. So
Will's awesome. Yeah.
he was giving you high marks, and every time I saw your work in this or that publication, it was like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. So
Wow.
I'm repeating myself here when I say very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah. And so we've known each other for, I don't know, a couple years now, right? I think.
Yeah.
And I personally, I consider you one of my mentors because you're always there with great advice.
Thank you.
And we've discussed things at length, so I greatly appreciate that. And in addition to that, and being a well of knowledge, you're a fantastic colorist as well. So
Thank you.
so let's can we talk a little bit about how you got started in the industry?
All right. Well, I got started in comics, firstly doing research, right? Trying to figure out what a career in comics would be. Because when I was young, you collect comics and stuff. And when I was about 8, I kind of put together that people did this for a living. So I wanted to do as much research as I could to figure out, like, what kind of jobs could you do in comics besides drawing, right? And yeah, I wanted to be a penciler, So I started buying this Marvel Age magazine, the Marvel Age comics that Marvel put out. And it was like all insider stuff and promos and ads and stuff, and kind of learn a little bit about how they structure things over there. And when I was in high school taking a bunch of art classes, not at an art high school or anything, but like a regular public school, I'm high school age. I think I'm in about my junior year. I'm taking the subway from downtown, from Greenwich Village up back home to the Bronx. And I was with a friend of mine, and I pointed out that we were going to pass the stop where Marvel Comics was. So we got off the train, and this is at like 8 o'clock at night. I shouldn't be trying to get into the Marvel offices at 8 o'clock at night, but we went up anyway. And kind of shouldn't have been there. Like I said, the security guard stopped us. Long story short, we should have gotten in trouble. He actually wound up giving us a tour, and I saw Jimmy Palmiotti there working with Michael Baer and a couple other guys, George Roberts, on an issue of Ghost Rider, and it really blew my mind. This was after hours at night, lights out, just these guys in the office, in the bullpen, working on this issue, and it just clicked for me. Like, this is what I want to do. Jimmy has no recollection of this story. I've told him about this later on. He doesn't remember any of this. But it meant a lot to me at the time.
Right.
So fast forward a couple of years later, I finished high school. I'm in School of Visual Arts in New York, taking courses in illustration and cartooning, right? So you're doing all the foundation stuff, which is great. and the school was good. Had a lot of fun. Made a lot of met a lot of great people, but they don't let you back if you can't pay them. So I ran out of money after the first year.
Yikes.
Couldn't find a way back in because I'm putting myself through school, working part time at supermarkets and stuff. Um, One time I'm at work at D'Agostino's on 23rd Street, I think it was, or 27th Street. I forget where the store was. Dennis Cowan walks in, penciler at the time of, I think he was doing Deathlock at the time. Bunch of DC stuff, bunch of Marvel stuff to his credit. He was launching a new thing called Milestone with Dwayne McDuffie, Derek Dingle, Michael Davis. Um, Dennis was doing a Dennis was doing a signing up the block at a comic shop that I used to pop into before and after work whenever I could. And I walked up to him. He's in the produce section. I'm working the produce section. Walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you're Dennis Cowan." And we start talking. I asked him if he used assistants. He said no, but he knew someone he wanted that he could introduce me to. So I go to the signing to meet up with him, and Michael Davis is there, his business partner from Milestone. He introduces me to Michael. Michael tells me about this class he's got going on in Jersey City out of his loft, out of his home. It used to be like an unofficial DC New Talent program. So he has this class that he runs this in his studio in his home, and I go because why not? I figure I need to supplement my art education because I'm not going to college right now. So I figured, well, let me do this while I get the money to go back to school. So I start going to these classes. Um, I didn't know it at the time, but in the class is John Paul Leon, Bernard Chang, Sean Martinborough, later on Dennis Calero, later on Adam Polina, Alison Morales, who wound up being an editor at DC Comics, right? So all this talent was in this class that I'm now a part of. Didn't know that at the time because they weren't working at the time, but we're all kind of learning and coming up together in the same environment. Michael, after a few months, he invited me to work in his studio. So I started working in a studio doing like everything. I'm spotting blacks on pages. I'm inking backgrounds. I'm ruling pages. I'm doing layouts. I'm cleaning the closet. I'm getting him coffee. I'm doing whatever he needed done. I was there. I'm erasing pages after they're inked. Right. I'm looking at blue line stuff. I'm working on blue line stuff. I'm blue line coloring. I'm cutting zipatone. Everything you could think of, I got experience in, and it was amazing. I was like, what the hell do I need art school for? This is a crash course. This is working on the job, and I'm not getting paid, but what I was learning at the time was amazing. And I'm learning from Michael. I'm learning from the other people in the studio. Chuck Drost was in the studio, who's now a director for Warner Brothers Animation. Thor Badendijk was in the studio, who was an amazing artist on his own. He was doing covers for Marvel. He did a short story for Telos. He did statue design for Sideshow Collectibles, right? So I'm working with a bunch of different people in the studio. I'm working with Mike. I'm learning as much as I can. Mike then leaves Milestone and starts another venture with Motown Records called Motown Animation. And he invites me in. So I get to now be an editor, special projects editor and color editor, because I was learning about color at the time in the studio. So we make the move to California, and I'm now in charge of coloring and developing special projects. I'm doing storyboards for promotions, for animated stuff, pitches for animation, springboards, turns, co-writing Bibles, just all kinds of things that I learned in the studio. Now I'm doing professionally. That lasted a couple of years. That lasted from 93 to 96. And August of 96, when I left, or when, the whole thing kind of fell apart after a while, because comics is tricky and we're producing comics and we're trying to do other things too. And I colored most of the books there, almost all the covers. It was The Crush, Man Against Time, Casual Heroes, Trouble Man, of course, Trouble Man because it's a Motown thing. I gained a lot of experience there. I learned how to computer color there, how to color digitally there on like the first version of Photoshop that was released. And I also, in the studio, I learned how to do color guides. I learned how to do blue lines. So I had a pretty well-rounded knowledge of color and some basic color theory, which, definitely developed over time as I used those skills. But after August 96, I struck out going freelance on my own. And I started doing some stuff for Marvel. I was doing stuff for Disney Adventures magazine. Heidi McDonald gave me a shot there, bless her heart, because I was not anywhere near the level where she should have hired me, but she gave me some chances there. And between that and the couple of jobs I had for Marvel, doing a couple of covers here and there, X-Men Classics, I think it was, I was able to pay the rent and move back to New York. I did some freelance illustration jobs there too, so that helped. But yeah, when I moved back in, I want to say it was 97, around 97, I hit the Marvel offices first. Like 2 days off the plane, I went up to the Marvel offices. I lined up an appointment, and I met with Joe Andriani, Matt Idelson, who were sharing an editorial office there. Met with Jason Liebig, who was the editor who gave me my first two X-Men covers, and I wound up getting work doing color guides there. I showed off a portfolio of digital colors, but they needed color guide artists. So I did a fill-in issue on Deadpool because Chris Leitner had to skip a book to do something else. And Joe Andriani, since they're sharing the same office, Matt Idelson was the Deadpool editor, and Joe Andriani was editor on a bunch of stuff, including Journey into Mystery. He needed a guide colorist too, so he hired me to do Journey into Mystery monthly. And then about a month or two after I started doing that book, Matt wound up bringing me in to do Deadpool monthly. And this was the Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness, then Pete Woods Deadpool book. So yeah, that's how I got my start doing color guides. And they gave me a shot doing digital colors on covers. So I started doing more of that too with Journey into Mystery, Deadpool, stuff like that. I was so frustrated doing color guides though, because color guides, it's a representation of what you want to put down. And then those color guides get sent off because they're painted on Xeroxes. On light watercolor paper. And those are sent off to a color separator at the time, someone who's interpreting the guides and, pretty much replicating what I'm doing in Photoshop. So the guides I was doing were marked up with like arrows, do a grad from here to here and use this color, like this kind of red, YR9 for Deadpool, 100% yellow, 90% red on Deadpool and things like that, basic stuff like that. But what I would get back, like I was never really happy with. So what I did, which was kind of an asshole move at the time, I guess, was I started doing digital color guides. So I'm effectively coloring Deadpool every month digitally and then printing out the pages and then handing them off and going, here are my color guides. with a tracing paper overlay of all the codes that I'm using and instructions for gradients, textures, things like that. And doing that got me really fast at digital coloring. It was a great exercise for that, but kind of a douchebag move because I'm like, I can do this. You should really have me doing this. But they couldn't because the studio that they had was under contract. Right. So they couldn't break their contract to give me the book to do digitally. So I was fine with that. I understood.
When did you see the market changing over from doing color guides and anybody else doing the separations, whether it's digitally or mechanically, to the colorists actually doing their own finished color?
It was, I want to say around 1999. It was Marvel Knights hit, right? So Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti did this Marvel Knights deal with Marvel,
I remember.
where they were this sub imprint, right? All these characters, in all these books that weren't really selling the way Marvel needed them to sell. So Joe and Jimmy packaged these books, and they brought in their own talent. They brought in mostly Brian Haberlin to do, and Avalon to do all the colors. They did bring me in eventually, which was awesome. I had gone into doing digital color for Captain America on Heroes Return, which was after those Marvel characters came back from the Image Studios.
Yeah, we did some of the artwork on that one.
Yes, did. So I was doing Captain America with Mark Waid and Andy Kubert, and the Marvel Knights guys, they saw this and they had me come in and do Punisher. Well, they had me on 2 issues of Doctor Strange first, over Tony Harris, which was really intimidating because it was stuff that it wasn't in my wheelhouse, wasn't stuff I was doing at the time, right? But I learned real quick. And those issues aren't great. My work in there isn't great at all. Tony's awesome, but I felt like I dropped the ball. But they gave me a shot at doing Black Panther and then the Punisher. So I did Black Panther over Mike Manley, who's awesome, in an animated style. And then they had me on the Punisher with Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis and Jimmy. And that just kind of took off. I want to say that Heroes Return to Marvel Knights arc right there, which was around, I want to say 1999. That's when there were way more people coming in to do digital colors straight, and they started phasing out color guides. And I want to say at Marvel and DC. At DC, I think, was maybe a year or two later they started doing that. That was a time where technology just exploded, and you started seeing all these people come in and like really take control and do their own thing.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you say that your work on was it Doctor Strange that wasn't that great, right?
Yeah.
But I find, more often than not, and you know this as well, that if you can meet a deadline, you got the job.
Yeah, it's definitely a right place, right time thing. And just hitting deadlines, being someone that the editor doesn't have to worry about counts for so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so in addition to being a colorist, you also teach classes. So, it's kind of ironic not being able to pay for school, and now you're somewhat of a professor yourself, a teacher yourself. So,
right.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Yeah. Well, one of my editors at Marvel, his name's Andy Schmidt. He was my editor on Captain Marvel. When he left Marvel, he wanted to go into business for himself, and he was doing these writing classes on his own, physical writing classes in a room kind of thing. He would rent an office in Manhattan and teach, whoever could show up, teach about writing there. And he wanted to kind of expand the thing into a full business. And I started talking to him a little bit, and we were wondering what a coloring class would look like in this model. Physically, it doesn't work, right? Because you have to supply computers, you have to supply software, you have to supply artwork to work on. So physically, it doesn't work. But virtually, that's another thing. So when Andy decided to start launching a virtual class to reach more people, he was doing it with meeting software like GoToMeeting or Syntech or something like that.
Yeah.
So we would do these classes. He would do these classes virtually, and he and I started talking again, and he asked me if I could develop a curriculum. And I said, yeah, I want to do it. I kind of want you to be hands off. I'll show it to you when I put it together. And I want to do some test classes. So I had him in for a test class. I wrote this curriculum, had him in for a test class, and it worked really well. It was the class that I wish was available when I was learning this stuff. And it's a class that I developed. And I don't want to make it sound like I did it in a vacuum. Andy absolutely had some say in what I was approaching. But it's mostly my baby, right? So I put together a class that I wanted when I was growing up, and I put together a class that didn't hinge so much on the software you were using, because I didn't want to teach a Photoshop class.
Right.
Because my use of Photoshop is very specialized, right? Whereas if you take a Photoshop class, you're going to want something that touches on everything. And my class touches on a lot, but it's very specialized, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't want to focus on the software. I wanted to focus on theory. I wanted to focus on painting. I wanted to focus on the things that I learned in illustration and the things that I learned in Michael Studio. All the stuff that I learned coming up, I wanted in the class. So like the first class is flatting, right? That's the most technical class that we do. And we do that right out the gate because it's the one skill you have to have. And it's also the one skill you learn right away that you can actually monetize, right? So
Hmm.
you're laying in just flat color, and you're learning the tools. You're learning what to do with your mouse or your stylus, because you don't like. Like I said, I didn't want to teach Photoshop class. I want to teach a technical class, so you could actually do my intro class with a mouse with the techniques that I use, right?
Wow.
And it's all, and I've had students do that. I've had students who didn't know English. I've had students who didn't have Photoshop until the first night of class. And by the end of the class, they were all able to color, different degrees of success, but they were able to color a full page. Um, but yeah, it's an art class. It's a painting class. It's not a computer class. It's not a Photoshop class. It's not a digital whatever class. We're using we're using the computer as a tool. We're using the stylus as a tool, the mouse as a tool, whatever you're working with. It's all tools to get the same kind of thing. And I think it's fortunate that I came up learning how to do color guides. I came up learning how to do blue line color before I got into computer color. And I think that gives me a different perspective and allows me to bridge that gap with my students. So yeah, the first night is technical, but that's the only night we get technical, because after that we start on color theory. We start uh, on values, using values to organize. Then we start building up actual pages, and it's a lot of critique. It's a lot of homework. It's, on-screen demonstrations. Everyone gets to see my screen in the live classes. And I explain everything I do as if I was speaking to a child. I don't hit my quick keys. I use the menus, the drop down menus, because I think that's fair. That's only fair.
Right.
And I explain everything I do. I explain why I do it. I make sure to open up for questions. I make sure that we do reviews in the beginning of each class. I don't want anyone left behind. I don't want anyone thinking, oh, I can't ask this question because, everyone else is so advanced. No, no one's advanced in my classes. Even when I have people come in to take my classes who have been working in comics for a while, like Rochelle Rosenberg, Jamal Eigel, Dave Finch, when they come in to take my class, Heather Antos, they come in to take my class. It doesn't matter what they know or what they feel they know. Um, Even someone who's been working in coloring for a while, like Rochelle, let's say, like when she came in, she obviously knows what she's doing, right? She was working in a lot of indie stuff at the time in the indie space, and she knows what she's doing. But I didn't have her jump into the advanced class. I'm like, no, you take the intro class, because I guarantee you're going to learn something. And I feel she benefited a lot. She, I never heard a complaint out of her. We had hung out after the courses were done, and she had nothing but positive stuff to say. I've never had a bad review. Like, everyone comes in and they're taught the exact same things from day one up until the end. And because it's a live class, yeah, there's some ebb and flow. There's, like, if I feel like the students can take a little extra, I'll put a little extra on their plate. But I also allow them some grace if there's stuff that they can't get to do. That's fine. And if they need like a little side thing, an extra half hour before a class starts or after a class finishes, I have no problem doing that too. Or,
Uh,
we'll
if
see
it,
around.
uh, Are you doing these classes currently? Are there ways people can sign up?
We actually delved into recorded classes now
Ah,
on the Comics Experience website, comicsexperience.com.
Which
Um,
there's a link in the comments right there. So if anybody wants
awesome.
to check that out,
Yeah, so there's recorded classes now. I boiled down my intro class into different recorded sessions, so you can buy like pieces at a time, or you can just bundle the whole thing together.
okay.
And there's artwork that you get to use too, and downloadables. So yeah,
Oh,
I
that is
haven't done
fantastic.
I haven't done a live class in about a year.
Mhm.
But the recorded sessions are really good too, I think.
That is good to know. I have a few people that have been submitting coloring to me that could use a bit of learning beyond what I can teach them.
Right.
So I'll send them in that direction.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
I have a timing question for you.
Okay.
As best you can recall, um, when did computer color start being used by the publishers?
All right. So I want to say it was Image's fault, right?
fault.
When, yeah, when Rob and Jim and Mark and Wills, when they went off and did their amazing thing with Image, and we started seeing what these computer colors look like, that's when it really hit the mainstream. Like
Yeah.
before that, the only thing that we had was Akira. Um, so Steve
Well,
Olive is kind of to blame, really.
yeah. The reason I ask is at the end of 1991,
Hmm.
Glasshouse, I'm sorry, Innovation, the publishing company I had at the time, we did a Hero Alliance special that was colored by DC's production manager for a long time, Carl Gafford.
Okay.
And he didn't do anything super fancy with it. It was just good professional color without a lot of flashes and finesses. But that's at the end of 91.
Right.
The book was published in, I think, March 92. Um, so I was trying to figure out instances before that where it was used. He brought it to us as a thing he could do. I said, well, I don't know anybody else doing it. He said, well,
Right.
here, let me show you 2 pages. And he did. He said, okay, you do the whole book. And then, unfortunately, the way things timed out, I didn't get a chance to use them again. And then by the time I'd started Glass House, or soon after, I saw computer coloring being used a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but I was in the era of gray lines and blue lines type of thing,
Yeah.
and we had a section of our company where we were doing some cheap color books. So we were still doing the markups, and I had 3 people in the back putting shades of gray over treated acetate and shooting the negatives as halftones to get our color.
Right.
And uh, so I was so glad to see things shift to the computer color way, and now it's just so wonderful where it had been so garish when it started.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
I,
I feel that I don't know when I think about it, I feel like computer coloring for comics is one of those innovations that didn't necessarily take away from didn't take someone's job, like
right.
because they could transition over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. There was definitely room to transition. I know Pam Rambo, Gloria Vasquez, um, they made the transition. Trish Mulvihill, I think they made the transition pretty well. Jason Scott Jones, there was definitely room to do that. I think the only thing is like how fast can you make that transition, right?
Mhm.
Because you really have to be open to not just making that transition, but really understanding the ins and outs of the software,
mhm.
because that was the deciding factor. Like how fast can you make the transition? How fast can you make it viable? how fast can you then start flipping pages, and how fast are you able to maintain a monthly schedule, right?
And
Not just the ability to crank out a page in a certain amount of time, but in a sustainable way.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
I saw early on a lot of this where people were trying to do computer color, but not laying any color under the blacks and things like that. So I was
Yes.
getting, you were seeing the blotchy black effects. Like, come
Right.
on.
And
Yes.
you gave me a couple examples, a couple or an episode of your class, and I loved that in the class you were taking examples of classical artists and
Yeah.
pointing out things that they were doing that colorists might like should be doing and are doing
Right.
digitally today. So
Right.
I really loved that you did that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used all kinds of illustrators that I love, you know, and their stuff just works. So
Uh,
So, oh, go ahead, Dave.
no, I was going to say, do you have uh, some graphics that you wanted to show, Chris?
Yes, I'm sorry. I get so caught up into talking that I'm like, oh yeah, we got graphics.
Every week I got to remind, but that's fine.
So, if you want to talk about some of the stuff, Chris.
Oh yeah. So this is a page from Hardware #1, the relaunch from a couple of years back. This here I got to work with Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz, who are, I mean, they're my favorite artists. Together and separately, they're my favorite artists. So yeah, this was a kick for me because Dennis played an integral part of me being in comics. So getting to work with him professionally, it's kind of full circle. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So, how was it working under Bill Sienkiewicz? Like, did you have to change your style, or like how was that?
Okay, so style wise, like I work across different styles depending on the project, which I think most colorists should be able to do.
Right.
I think I'm pretty versatile. Uh, Working with Dennis and Bill is the most intimidating thing ever because it's two legends and then it's me, right? So I'm really just trying to not look stupid and I'm trying not to screw up. Luckily, something like this, because Dennis already has a lot of energy in his work and Bill just feeds off of that. So I'm able to loosen up and I can get a little sloppy. I can get a little scratchy. I can start doing stuff on top of the line art that I wouldn't do with maybe another artist who was a little cleaner looking. Like this is just all over the place. This is like jazz, right? This is like, or if you're a rap fan, this is Wu Tang, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, and I mean that's what I'm playing when I'm working on this stuff. So I'm all over the place. I'm dug in deep, and I can get like, you can see a lot of the texture in there that I'm using, and it's all like custom chalky brushes and stuff. And I'm scrubbing stuff and really just getting in there. So I'm trying to match their energy, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm providing a level of clarity that doesn't trip over what Bill is doing in the inks, because like Bill's not even inking. Bill is drawing on top of Dennis's drawings, and somehow he maintains what Dennis is doing, but he gives it a different flavor. It's a beautiful skill that Bill has. Bill
Yeah.
can just go on top of anyone he's working on, any penciler he's working over, whether it's Lee Weeks or Sal Buscema, or whoever, and he brings out like extra stuff in there and extra flavor. So
Yeah, he adds that Sienkiewicz look
yeah, Bill is
to
awesome.
the piece. Yeah, and I love the texture in your colors too. So that's
Thank
fantastic.
you. Thanks. Yeah. All right, so here's completely different style. It's much more reserved. It's not that same energy that I have with Dennis and Bill. It's a much different kind of thing. This is for Absolute Flash. I think this was number 5. That's on sale now. I'm pretty sure. 6 is coming out soon. So this was a lot of fun. I got to work with a new artist. I forget his name, Al something. He's really good and has a lot of emotion in his work. And I was so happy to get to work with him on this. They brought me in just for a couple of issues, and it was a blast to work on. But yeah, this is so much different. It's a lot more solid color. And I got to use some special effects here, which I think is always nice when I get to do that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and just get to play around with mostly faces and stuff in this book.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. So this is a cover over Mike McCone for Undeadpool. This has been revealed, so I had to double check before I sent this over. But yeah, any day I get to work with Mike McCone is a great day. His stuff is so clean and solid. Right, the structure is just, it's there, and all I need to do is just kind of find a hole to kind of dig into and just pull everything out from. So I love Mike's work. I love Mike McCone. He's great.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
This is Pascal Ferry for a Star Wars book. This was a while back. Pascal, he's amazing. He sends stuff though, and he's got so many layers and channels. I love it. I spend a little time organizing before I get to coloring and stuff. But it gives me an understanding of where he's coming from and what his intentions are with the artwork. So I definitely appreciate when I get his files because they are layered. I mean, I'm kind of old school. I like my stuff on one layer, drawn on the board, scanned in, whatever.
Yeah, you famously color on one layer. So
yeah, well, yeah, that too. Pascal, like, he'll give me stuff in different layers, and I'll just kind of port them over to channels so I can still work on one layer, actually, and just start picking out pieces here and there. So he's another one like Mike McCone, where I kind of find a hole and I kind of build out from there. Usually that hole involves light and how to work with the light in the image, and then just kind of provide the weight after the fact.
Right, and getting layered files, I've gotten layered files before from line artist or publisher, where like damn near every line is on a separate layer.
Yeah,
and like I look at that and my brain is just like does not compute. So I have to
file and
I have to flatten it and set it up to where I can parse it and work on it. So
right,
Pascal
doesn't do that. Thank goodness. I would lose my mind.
Hey, back a sec. I love what you're doing with the lights here. Actually, making the lights glow and how it's working all over the alien space. That's just wonderful work.
Thank you. That stuff's important. It's got to. It all has to live in the scene. So the best way to do that is with light and shadow.
So many guys can't do that. Yeah, I mean, I get working professionals that send me stuff. I say, really? Can you try this? And I have to explain things, and it's like, oh, I never thought of that. And it's a process to get them to try it, and even though they pick up other people's comics, they don't seem to learn from what they see.
Right.
And so I like stuff like this where I could even use this as a teaching guide for other colorists. It's like, okay, here's how to do it right. Awesome. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I still get geeky when I do color holds, man. I love the way color holds look. Like sometimes I'll do those first just because I'm like, that looks so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so this one, I forget what this was for. But this is over Tyler Kirkham. This is just like pure action shot cover kind of thing, gatefold cover. So yeah, just all these Savage Mutants I got to play with. I love this stuff. It's really just about making sure that I don't counter the energy on the image, right? Like with Dennis's stuff is very energetic, and I get to go a little sloppy and stuff, and loosen up. I can't do that over Tyler's, so it's more about color choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm still going brushy here, but it's not all that textured brush that I would do with Dennis and Bill or just Dennis in general. This is, much more reserved, but I'm using my color choices to try to build on the energy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh, again. Okay. So this is Dennis. I think inked by Prentice Rollins, if I'm not mistaken. This is one of the compendium covers for the Milestone collections, and Milestone is very dear to my heart because that's kind of how I got my start with the Milestone guys. When Milestone started, I didn't get to work on any of that stuff in the beginning. I got to see a lot of that stuff behind the scenes, though, right? So I got to see the Bible stuff. I got to see all the stuff as it was being created for the books. I got to see the artwork before we go to print. I wrote the first fan letter to Milestone because I got a preview copy of the book. Right. So being able to work on the Milestone stuff is just an awesome experience for me. It's like working with Dennis anyway is full circle. This is also for me very full circle. Right. So here I got to work on the compendium cover that collected the Worlds Collide crossover, which was the Milestone characters and the regular DC characters. Their universes kind of, crisis together, I guess, or whatever. And there was this really great crossover. So I got to do this cover with Dennis, and yeah, it's just a blast. And again, I go a little loose with Dennis here. I don't go as loose as I did on the hardware stuff because it's a different inker, it's a different look. It's also for a cover, so I want to make sure everyone is recognizable, and I stay more or less on model, but still provide some flavor in there. And Dennis is great. He trusts me a lot. He gives me a lot of room to play around and do my thing on there. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, Riccardo Federici on Fear State Alpha. I think this is Alpha. No, this is Omega. This was the second book. They asked me to do this colored over pencils, which is a thing that I did very early on in my career too, working on Captain Marvel at Marvel. So this is awesome in that I get to do that again. Coloring over pencils is very different from coloring over inked work
It
because
is.
yeah, there's a lot more heavy lifting I have to do. I have to also be very careful with the pencil work because I don't want it to get too dark, and I don't want to completely drown out the gorgeous artwork that the penciler puts in. So yeah, it's a balancing act. It can be a balancing act. I think I did a decent job at this. I really loved working on this. So this was awesome. But again, very different art style. This is a little bit softer than I would go on like Dennis or even the Tyler Kirkham stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we showed before. But it's still a lot of brushwork. And I'm really I'm trying to organize more than anything with his artwork.
Right. And I think it was you that had mentioned coloring over pencils is obviously a lot more difficult than inks. So, like, typically a colorist would charge more for coloring over pencils.
Right.
Okay.
I love the little bit on this page that you've done. Most of the time, somebody would just color that background in the big panel one color, but you knew to lighten it up back there so we'd see the bodies because that
Yeah.
could so easily be lost. So I love that you're not just coloring, you're thinking about the storytelling that has to be done here.
Yeah. Well, Ricardo's really great at using values to frame the eye. So, I mean, if I were to I can't counter what he's doing because, I mean, I'll
Mm-hmm.
look stupid, number one. And I would completely just step all over the amazing work he's doing. So I'm really just trying to frame, like I said, it's about organizing, right? So with
Yeah.
Ricardo stuff, I'm trying to frame everything using values. So yeah, I'm trying to get that light behind Batman and backlight him a little bit. Still keeping stuff readable and legible, but I definitely want the focus where that contrast of value is.
Yeah.
Where Batman is and that light value behind him.
That's good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Fantastic.
Oh, So this is a cover I did over Salvador LaRocca. Salvador, I love his stuff. Way back from Extreme X-Men, like I'd been a fan even before that. But yeah, he got to do World's Finest Cover. They asked me to come in and color this one. I know he's a little picky on colors, so I tried to do, something that I thought he might like. He has reference on layers, not the drawing on layers. Actually, I don't remember if the drawings were on different layers, but he includes references in different layers just for me to take a look at as far as rendering or color choices or what have you, whatever he's working on. So that's very helpful in that respect. Um, yeah, but this was a lot of fun. This was way more me carving out shapes, and trying to pay attention to the lighting. But this was a lot more tighter as far as style goes. Just trying to keep everything feeling the way it needs to feel with this kind of artwork, with what
Right.
Salvador was doing.
Right, because he's got a very blocky style,
Right.
and you definitely match that with the colors. So
Thanks. Yeah, he's like carving out shapes with his inks.
right,
So I wanted to kind of fall in line. I wanted to accent that. I wanted to complement that.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember what this is for. This was from a couple of years back. I think this is Chris Campagna on a Venom Carnage cover. And again, like he's carving out shapes, so I'm doing the same thing. And I also want it to be pretty marketable, you know. So I'm not doing like an indie thing or anything. I'm building off of what he's doing. Big shapes, big action, keeping it local because it's these two characters on a cover and a big thing, and just trying to provide a lot of contrast with my background color choices. Wow, this is another one from a couple of years back. It might be the same penciler, just a variant Spider-Man type cover. I think this was one of their Edge of Spider-Verse covers, variant covers. And again, big blocky shapes, keeping it marketable, lots of high contrast. Whenever I'm coloring anyone, I'm trying not to step on the line work. I'm not trying to step on what they're doing. I'm trying to
Right.
accent what they're doing. So yeah, lots of glowing bits. That helps to keep it marketable and snazzy and eye-catching.
I love the rendering here. I absolutely love the rendering.
Thank
And I have to say personally, I hate halos around a character. Like, how do you typically handle halos?
I mean, it's in this sense, it's a little different because like the halo can stem from the webbing, so I can just use that webbing to kind of pull the halo out a little bit. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll render through the halo and just add a little bit of a light around that section, right?
Okay.
Or just throughout the halo. But it's usually just a lighter version and a colored lighter version of something going on in the image. But yeah, I usually just render through the halo.
Okay. Great advice.
Again, Mike McCone, right? So here, not only am I trying to do something where I'm carving out shapes and staying as clean as Mike is, but the city in the background gives me a little bit of room to do some movement, right? Because the figure is obviously moving, but the figure is the focus. Spider-Man's the focus. So I can't do a whole lot with him in this pose other than what Mike's giving me. So what I did was I put the motion in the city, right? So I used like some tricks and stuff and some different some photo bashing techniques here and there, and I just kind of blurred everything. But instead of blurring the line art, which is not something I'm looking to do because then that pulls the focus away from the figure, what I'm doing is I'm trying to blur stuff and then put it underneath the line art, so that it gives it a little bit of motion, but I don't distort what's going on in the image.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Again, trying to complement what's there.
Yeah. All right. That was fantastic. I love looking at your colors.
Thank
You do you do an amazing job, and so talented, and just like I said, such a well of knowledge. So
Thanks.
Thank you
I
for doing
think
what you do.
I definitely think teaching the classes helps me get better because I'm constantly reinforcing those foundation elements. So, but thank you.
All right. Any other questions, Steve, or anything?
No, I think that's it. I've learned a lot today, so I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Thank
And,
you.
And
and,
I,
and, and I'm definitely going to direct some would-be colorists in the direction of your comics experience videos,
Awesome.
and
Thanks.
and uh, and we'll see how that goes. Because heaven knows some of these guys and gals need your help.
and even before Dave said that, I was like, you know what? I bet he's going to be like, I know some colorists who could use your courses.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. You have a great rest of your day, Chris. And again, thank you for coming on and joining us.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Wow, that was some terrific stuff.
It was, yeah. Fascinating. Love talking to Chris. So glad I finally got to talk to him face to face.
Yep. All right. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about. We have a Kickstarter coming up. I haven't set a date. It could be as early as Monday. It could be as late as Friday. But we are going to do a Kickstarter for a project called Legends of the Stargrazers. Now, girly type projects tend to work well on Kickstarter, so I'm hoping this will be no exception. I did Legends of the Stargrazers many years ago. When I was just starting out, I wrote several 10-page stories for Pacific Comics. And the second story I sold was called Legends of the Stargrazers, a 10-pager that Bob McLeod ended up drawing. And Dave Stevens did the cover. And he captured it perfectly. So that was on Vanguard Illustrated #2. And then several years later, artist Ron Lim took a stab at drawing a 5-page sequence for it. And he nearly became the regular artist for it. But once I got Innovation Publishing started, I connected up with a wonderful artist named Matt Thompson. And he and I worked on 6 issues of Stargrazers together. And one of the things we decided was we were going to tell these legends of all these things in space. And they would be sort of like when you had people that sailed the seas for many years and had their stories and legends to tell. Well, these were spacefaring legends. And we decided we wanted to do something special with them. So we got guys like Tom Yates to draw it. I mean, Tom Yates has been doing Prince Valiant these days. But he and I did a couple of stories together at Pacific Comics. So one of the legends, no, 2 legends in the book are his. We had guys like Nestor Redondo working on these things. So there were some terrific people involved, and that material has never been reprinted. So we went and got hold of the pages, remastered everything. Kevin Van Hook had done the coloring originally, and so we followed his coloring, did some enhancements to bring things up to date, and now we have hardcover coming up. 3 different covers, in fact. That's one of the variants, and we have. Sorry, moving slowly here. Another one of the covers. This one's by Meljoy San Juan, and it picks up a version of what Dave Stevens did on his, and used that as the starting point. Flopped it and went from there. And then we have a third cover by the interior artist Matt Thompson. And yes, go ahead.
CC coloring all these?
Yes, CC De La Cruz did all the cover colors. And so they were pretty wonderful. And so the interior of the book is done in this very clean style that seems to be lost so much these days. So art and color, very clean. All the artwork was done lines on paper, brilliant brush strokes by inker Randy Elliott, and was very happy with when it came out, and we were able to uh, um, adapt it, expand it, bring it up to date, add a new text feature, and all that. And so we'll be doing that hardcover Kickstarter sometime in this next week.
Very cool. So the artwork is very retro, of course. So is the coloring, which
Mm-hmm.
it's meant to be. And one would think that that would lend itself toward maybe a cheaper paper, even like a newsprint. So what
Uh,
made you decide to go with a gloss?
Honestly, the printer that I use in in China was able to give us this this nice format, the hardcover and the gloss, and that for less than the newsprint would have been.
Oh wow, okay.
And so we are on this nice. It's a gloss, but it's not a in your face overly bright. The book had been when it had been published, it was on, I want to say Baxter text for the first, but that may not have been accurate. So it was a white paper originally. And so Kevin Van Hook was able to color it in such a way that it looked good on that paper, not garish on that paper. And so we were able to go to a gloss, make the adjustments, keep what Kevin had done on it, and it just looks really good here. And you talk about retro style. When we were looking for an art team for that, I wanted to not only get some of that, Dave Stevens feel to the interiors, but we were looking back on the classic artists who had done girl art, like Matt Baker and Lou Fine and Will Eisner and things like that, to look at how they put down line, how they drew the attractive girls, how even guys like Al Williamson and Frazetta and so forth. So we were really thinking in terms of um, the best stuff in the 40s and 50s and trying to bring that into the art style that Matt Thompson and Randy Elliott used.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely got a pinup feel to it
yeah,
almost. So
and
yeah,
so very deliberate, very planned to do the best we could with that, and then the joy of having guys like Tom Yates and Nestor Redondo working on some of these. We got just beautiful line work on that stuff as well, and it's hard to do better than those guys.
right.
So
Yeah,
so
it's gorgeous stuff.
so any folks that are uh, looking for that type of stuff, Stargazers should be your kind of thing this week. And we're going to not only have uh, the books, but there's going to be prints and other assorted interesting add-ons that we're going to be able to offer. And so look for it, as I say, sometime between Monday and Friday. Not sure when, because we're still tweaking the Kickstarter to make it just right.
Okay, great. And it looks like our next guest, your lovely wife, is still putting her face on. So,
I tell you
um,
what, let's shift gears here and do some portfolio reviews while we're waiting,
all
and,
right.
and let's see what we have. I'm seeing the spinning ball of death. Okay, here we
Oh,
go.
you got it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, finally. Okay, there we go. All right, so this fellow sent me a portfolio of 4 pages where he took the sample plot for Wonder Woman that's on my company's website. You can either go on to glasshousegraphics.com, go into submissions, and then look for it in one of the subcategories there. We have 9 sample plots and scripts that people can try out. The Wonder Woman gives people quite a bit of flexibility because, like some of the old Marvel plots of old in the 70s and 80s, it's done plot first. So it's not only to see how well you can tell the story from that, because it's still broken into individual panels, but there's no dialogue, just indications of where it may go, to see what people are going to do with it. So it's fascinating to see what folks will do. Now, this fellow sent me this, and I was a little confused. He did follow the format that we said, where send each page, or send your portfolio as a PDF. Put your contact information on the first page so I know who it is when I go back. And he did all that. But you got into the portfolio, and his artwork was so small on the page, and I guess the DPI was so small that if you blew it up large enough to study the artwork, it got all fuzzy on you.
Right.
So I don't quite understand why somebody would want their art not to look its best. So he sent it low res, plus it was shrunk down on his page because he decided to put his name and contact on every page, which is not what I asked him to do. And so he made it very hard to review every single page in any kind of high resolution.
And I think artists sometimes shrink their artwork down or give you a low res, because in their mind they're thinking, well, if it's not high res, then he can't blow it up and see my mistakes.
And that becomes another mistake.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So this story is a 4-pager that was designed to show a little bit of everything. So here he's having to draw a whole city street, and kids are supposed to be flocking around Wonder Woman. Adults are supposed to be admiring. I wanted to do a Wonder Woman, much like in the current Superman movie, where kids don't feel scared of running up to the character. So they're treating her like a celebrity. She's there hunkered down and signing things. And the way the story goes, the kids are the first ones to spot this meteor that's coming down. She's supposed to whip her head around, see it, and then go flying up. And we're supposed to see, like, the pencil or whatever, or the pen that she was signing with got snapped before she dropped it. And that's all just part of the storytelling. So we got a rather nice first panel. But as you go in and start looking at the faces, you realize the drawing of the buildings and the bus and the car are better than the people.
Right.
You start studying the clothing, the faces, even the line work, and it doesn't quite seem to work. Some of the things are kind of odd. Like in the script, it described this character, Wonder Woman, was supposed to be out front this big store that she's just come out of, and they catch her and she's signing. Here she's kind of on a corner. It's a corner because there's a blonde lady that she's kind of leaning like this, and then there's the corner of the building, but then we see the street sign and so forth behind her, so it's a crosswalk and all that. So it didn't quite do what I described. Panel 2, kids are pointing up. Okay, we don't see what they're pointing at, but Wonder Woman, she's just looking forward and up. She didn't whip her head around. So if she's just looking up, well, as you see in panel 1, way up at the top, there comes the meteor. Well, if Wonder Woman didn't turn her head, what is she looking at?
Good point.
All right. So, so the action, the way it was described, was, so she's turning like this, and you see the sweep of the hair and so forth. because we want that movement there. So we don't get that. And then the last panel, she hurtles upward. And what did she do? Did the whole group like sort of edge this way and turn the corner? Because now they're at another corner. They're not at the same corner they were in the previous shot. It's like they turned the corner or something. Either that or that's a really narrow building. So something's not working. And the more you study it, the more little details don't work. It's like up in panel 1, you have a dog that's there coming up in the middle of the city with no collar, no leash. Whose dog is this? And why is it running free? And what happened to the dog in the next shot? There's a lot of stuff that just didn't work. Plus, you see the character in the bottom right panel, Wonder Woman flying upwards, but she's flying upwards into panel 1 that we just saw. So either you're going to read this or you're reading panel 1, 2, 3, and then 4 taking you back up to panel 1. It's this odd loop in there. It's always better if a character if a character has to break a panel, that they move into the next panel that the reader is supposed to read. It's part of the reader's eye flow. So this doesn't really work in that sense.
Yeah, it definitely draws from panel 1 straight into panel 4.
Yeah. So either skip 2 and 3, or you read 1, 2, 3, 4 back up into 1, and
right.
I'm not getting it. So you go into page 2, and I thought this was a really cool shot of the meteor crashing to Earth, but the shot was supposed to have Wonder Woman in it. We were supposed to see that it was too much for her and she's being smashed back like this, and we lose that part of it. Now, in panels 2 and 3, we see that she's climbed out of it. Here's Supergirl in panel 4 coming down, and then comes down to greet her in panel 5. That's not really what was in the script. And part of what the reason for the script is to see how well an artist can follow instructions. If they're going to change something, is there a good story reason to change it? And does it make it better? If it makes it different or makes it worse, then that's a problem. So she's come out of this. They got this odd, tiny inset for panel 3, which just kind of bugs me. He does do the out of the panel things okay in the next shot. Supergirl's arm pulls you from panel 3 into panel 4. Her head from panel 5 comes from panel 4 into panel 5. Okay, that's fine. That works for me. What is lost here was in the script. Supergirl was supposed to be flying down, sees Wonder Woman still partly pinned there, and in the last panel helps pull her out. Otherwise, why is Supergirl there? Just to say hi? But so the whole point was to involve Supergirl, show she's helping, so that in the next page, when a Wonder Woman that was possessed, as you're supposed to see from this shot where her eyes are glowing, that's almost lost the way he staged it.
I was wondering what that was. I'm like, did Wonder Woman get a new power? Or?
yeah. But it's not clear because of the way it's been staged. So, but as you go, you also see the line work on Supergirl. It suddenly became so odd and heavy. I think he's inking with a Hershey bar. This really isn't working. That isn't cloth for Supergirl's suit or her cape. I don't know what it's supposed to be. The action here is pretty interesting, but the figure work is so odd. It's like the Wonder Woman doing the punching, her proportions are just so off. She's, I don't know, 9 feet high or something.
Right.
Um, and then, although it's kind of interesting what he does with the center panels, it's another really awkward shot on Wonder Woman in the bottom left panel. And then the bottom right panel completely defeated the purpose of the scene, which was after she's done all this, it's supposed to be just Superman's hand reaching out, grabbing her shoulder from behind, and she's turning to face us. So the reveal comes on the next page in the script that it's Superman. Instead, he spoiled the reveal. It's sort of like a Columbo episode that wasn't supposed to be, where you're showing the killer in the first shot. No, that's not it.
Just one more thing.
Yeah. So now you've got the fight here, and it's all just kind of odd. And now Supergirl is shorter and has really muscular legs that she didn't have in some of the earlier shots, and just the rendering gets goofier and goofier as she goes. And there's another really teeny tiny panel with the eyes. So in as panel 3. So the guy has some talent, but I think has a long way to go before he would be somebody that we could offer work to. There's just too much that's inconsistent, too much that's not well thought out. And if he's going to try to do his own inking, he hasn't really mastered those techniques yet.
Right.
So that's where we are for this one.
And that's one of the things you stress too is, look, if you're a penciler, don't ink your line art. Send just your pencils, because the inks are going to influence, what I think of your pencils.
Yeah. What concerns me is, I think some of these newcomers are thinking in a number of ways. If you're dealing with the smaller companies that are likely to hire them first, those small companies don't have the money to pay for a separate inker.
Right.
So you get the pencilers realizing that they may need to ink their work if they can't do pencils that are tight enough to be, finessed in Photoshop and look like inks. So they're inking their own stuff, but it's kind of like meeting a guy and saying, "Well, what do you do for a living?" "Well, I'm a brain surgeon and a florist." Excuse me? You mean as a hobby? "Oh no, I run a flower shop Thursday through Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I do brain surgery at Johns Hopkins." It's like a whole different. If you think about it, this whatever the creativity in inking, and there's a whole lot of it to be had.
Right.
It is mastering technical skills, whether you're doing them on a tablet and simulating brush strokes and pen strokes and all that. It's still mastering those techniques. It's not just drawing with a pencil, which is a whole different mindset.
Right.
Because penciling requires storytelling ability and being able to create entire worlds. The inking becomes an interpretation of those pencils. And the best inkers aren't going to be tracers, as a movie of the past had said. But they bring something to the inks or to the pencils that weren't there before to bring out the best of the penciling. And one hopes fix the worst of it.
Right. And that's where you get into what the inker brings, like the line weights and the spot blacks and all that stuff that just make a comic page so dynamic, and the hatching and all that stuff.
Yeah, so. Sure. Like we had, I have a lot of work that's inked for Joe Bennett by various inkers. And Joe is kind of tough to ink. tech right now he's got a couple of inkers that ink it beautifully and technically, but there's what is lost is some of the energy that's in it. So when I have the opportunity, I like to bring in inkers that can add that finesse. It's like, can you imagine Joe Bennett pencils and Will Conrad doing the inks? He's a master penciler all on his own,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a very strong inker before he ever became a penciler. And putting those two dynamos together, I thought would be an amazing combination. And I'm trying to get a publisher to do that right now. So we'll see if that happens. And I'd love to show the results on our podcast here.
That would be fantastic. And I find more often than not, a good inker, like the best inkers, are fantastic artists themselves.
This is true. A lot of guys who come into the business as inkers are brilliant enough to learn from the pencilers that they've been inking. So they sort of pick it up through osmosis, not just the some of how the penciler rendered things and how they staged some things, but learning from the storytelling. If they can't become strong storytellers, then their chances of being great pencilers really lessen. But that is the way it is for the business. But that's my winded way of saying I understand why some of these new guys are inking their own work, even if they haven't mastered it first. But I also understand that it is a very difficult thing. So if you're going to ink your stuff, but you haven't mastered it, it might not be a bad idea to show me the pencils and the inks, or just show me the pencils if you're better at it.
And I believe you do explicitly say that on the Glass House site, right?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
So. And so I'm always willing to look at this stuff, but if it makes your stuff less than it could be, that's kind of a disappointment.
All right.
So who else do we have? What else do we have?
That's it for portfolios. Do you know what's going on with Jenna?
All right. I can go check on it, but that means you're going to be talking to people for a minute.
All right.
So you do that, and I will see how she's doing. You talk about how people can submit their work to our podcast, and I will be right back.
All right, will do. All right, everybody, you're stuck with me for just a minute. So we do this every week, and if you are interested in submitting artwork for review, you can submit that to, let's see here, I'm looking for you can submit that to David Campiti at gmail.com, or you can submit that to me at ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. We're always looking out for portfolios to review. And if you do send a portfolio, we would appreciate it if you would have that in a PDF form with your name and contact information on the first page. And yeah. Oh, David's back. All right.
And we are back. So Jenna will be joining us in just a minute.
All right.
And want to talk a little bit about this. Now, Glass House has been in this business for 30-something years. And, as I said earlier in the podcast, I pretty well keep my head hunkered down working on projects, either coordinating or being hired to edit, or sometimes just having to edit because they need me to, and just coordinating pages every which way, so that it becomes something where I lift my head and the entire market is changing.
Right.
So I got into doing Kickstarters, and it was almost me kicking and screaming into the Kickstarters because I was having to learn a whole new thing, and we've done 12 of these things or 15 of these things, and never really expanded our horizons. And then I learned last year that there's this whole different market with whatnots and much more that could be done with Kickstarters. And I needed somebody who was brilliant at this sort of thing. And so I asked Jenna Jones to join us. Hello, Jenna.
Hello, Jenna.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Jenna, maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of the whatnots and Kickstarter stuff that you have done, and what you're going to be doing for Glass House and Alpha Comics as we move ahead.
Okay. So as far as Kickstarters, I started out with the White Widow, and I helped run all of those Kickstarters. And then for Whatnot, I had my own personal channel where I sold a bunch of comics that I've collected. And I got up to about 1,500 followers with a 5.0 rating. I'm really big on packaging. I handled like all the CGCs for the Kickstarters. So like I always make sure everything is packed really well, and so there's rarely ever damages. I think I only had one damaged package. But yes, for Glass House, I'm gonna help run all the Kickstarters, coming up with like stretch goals, help set up, do the graphics for it. And then for Whatnot, I'm gonna be doing a lot of sales, hopefully conventions and whatnot, live shows on conventions, at conventions.
Sorry, hold on.
Oh no, you're fine.
Technical problems.
What is going on here? That should be showing her. Oh, well, I guess we're just going to go back here. There we go. That's a little better.
So, okay. We're also selling other like books for other people. Like we have a bunch of Patriotica comics to sell. Valkyrie Saviors. Later today, I'm going to be doing a Whatnot show, and then probably around 5:00. And then we're going to release a Kickstarter soon, maybe around Monday, for a book called Stargazers.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about we talked a little bit about Stargazers earlier, and what is the name of your stream or channel?
So the channel on Whatnot is called Alpha Comics. There's an underscore between Alpha and Comics.
All right. So do you have some of the stuff that you wanted to show? Do you have some of the books that you'd like to show of what you're going to have available?
Yes. Should probably grab other ones, but we have like this one. This is a nice one by artist Ko Chan. And we Mike Chrome. And then we also have other amazing artists like Lena Dye, and a lot of NSFW books.
What'd you say? Not safe for wife?
Yeah. Not safe for wife. Yeah.
There's wife. Yeah, we were here in the office the other day talking about the nude variant covers that are so prevalent now, and I referred to them as not safe for work. And she started giggling at me, and it's like, what? No, not safe for wife.
That's funny.
On the other hand, my wife is drawing some of these covers, so there we go.
I just
Yeah,
know
your
some
wife-
collectors who say it's not safe for wife.
Yeah, your wife is one of the best, good girl artists out there. So
Yeah, so
Thanks.
I'm hoping that Meryl will join Jenna with some of these whatnots so that she can say, "Hey, Bonza girl, I drew this," and sign them for people. So Jenna, did you have any of the Glasshouse stuff that you were going to be putting up on this?
Well, I'd have to go and get them, but
All right, you can go get those, and we'll talk while you're away. There we are. So this will be interesting because this will be the first whatnot that Glasshouse had any direct involvement in. We've done a bunch of covers and interior books for publishers like Comics Elite, where artist Dave Santana and some of our others have done covers and interiors for them. And they have been highly successful. And they had us doing this work, and I didn't even know this whatnot thing existed.
yeah, I was just going to ask you, what exactly is a whatnot? I mean,
it is a Jenna can probably talk more about it, but it is an app on your phone, literally called Whatnot, and it is a whole bunch of channels that people have that they're selling comic books, original art, and related stuff. Hell, they're selling just about anything on Whatnot. So it's a bunch of auction sites. But what I've discovered is a lot of stores have Whatnot channels. A lot of publishers have Whatnot channels, and they're offering their books for sale there in these live streams, and plenty of exclusives. So you might get, say, a book like the Stargrazers that we're doing, and it might be offered with a very limited edition cover that is done with foil or metal covers or anything like that. There we go. We see the corner. We don't see you, Jenna.
oh, sorry, I'm just getting a few of those
All right.
things. Those and protectors and stuff. Okay, so like some things, like original art from.
Yes, some of my wife's original art for Bonsai Girl. That's a birthday card.
And then
that's your wife. That's that Jinky Coronado gal, right?
Yep. Who'd have thought it, huh?
And then we have a bunch of comics for Bonsai Girl. So by John Royal. Of course, Jinky.
The gold cover.
Yes, that
Love
is gorgeous. That. Then we have Joe Bennett. Pello.
Pentalina, yes.
Yep. And then, of course, then there's a blank, which there'll be a character sketch that people can buy, a couple of head sketches, then Jinky again. There'll be a couple of giveaways. We also have other things like Jade Warriors.
Very cool.
Gotta have that butt shot. We also have prints like this one. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great Shadow Road.
Oh yeah, think she did Rogue really well. There'll be signatures, and we'll all just be hanging out and.
Very cool.
People really tend to love those blank sketch covers. For some reason, they love them.
Yep, because they can create their own cover.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff.
So what time are you saying we'll do this? 5 o'clock?
Yeah, around 5 o'clock.
All right. This will be our first ever. So who knows how many fine folks will show up for it, but I'm really looking forward to it. So anything else today, Jenna?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
All right. Then any of you watching, tune in to the Whatnot, which is, as I said, an app for your phone if you're not familiar with it. Download it, look for alpha_comics, and we will be selling a bunch of goodness then. All right. Thank you, Jenna.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Jenna. Bye.
So
I think she was a little camera shy there.
Yeah, everybody's learning. She's done a number of Whatnots, but hasn't done it in a while. So glad to have her on this.
Yeah.
Jenna is quite a whiz at design and production. So you will see a number of our upcoming Kickstarters and so forth that she's done that design and production work on, and is dealing with our printers and so forth. So
that's not easy. That is not an easy job.
So glad to have her aboard.
Fantastic. All right. So is that it for today, or is there anything else we want to talk about?
I think that's it for today. Next week we are going to it'll be a recorded podcast, but we will have artist Carlos Granda, who has been working on a number of independent books and various Kickstarters over the past several years. And he's a glasshouse artist, so we're back to one of those. But he's somebody with plenty of talent that has not had much of a chance to be recognized and focused on. So I look forward to having the conversation with him and showing more of his work to the comics world.
Right.
So
fantastic.
So we will see everybody back here posting at 1 o'clock on Saturday, right?
Yeah. And again, if you want to send a portfolio for a review on the show, you can send that to David at glasshousegraphics.com. Or you can send it to me at ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel. That helps us out a lot. We're trying to build a viewership here, so anything you can do helps. And that's all for this episode. So,
all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Yes, and you have a fantastic rest of your day. All right. Bye-bye.
Back.